Hey RVF, welcome back. Today is Tuesday of Passion Week. Hopefully yesterday you had some time to get away with the scriptures found in Mark chapter 11 and do some reflection regarding Jesus' cursing of the fig tree and his cleansing of the temple. I hope those questions and that time for you was helpful and beneficial as we take these days leading up to Good Friday and Resurrection Sunday to reflect on the last days of Jesus' life and our response to them. Today's scripture comes from Mark chapter 11, verses 27 through chapter 12, verse 34. So it's a little longer than yesterday's, but again, there's more content for you guys to think through and pray through. The core issue today in the text centers around Jesus' authority. As you can imagine, when Jesus went into the temple and he overturns the tables, the religious leaders take exception to this. And so their first question the following day is, by whose authority do you do these things? And so Jesus responds by telling them a parable. And this parable revolves around these tenant farmers, and there's a landowner, and there's a whole interpretation that you'll find in the text. And so the Pharisees, what they do is they respond with a number of questions. And so as Jesus lays out his reason for the authority, which is that he's the son of the landowner, and rather than submitting to the authority not only of the landowner but also his son, they have chosen to kill him. And so these Pharisees come, and then the Sadducees come, and then the scribes come, and each one of them, in response to Jesus' claims to authority, ask him a number of questions. The Pharisees' questions revolves around whether or not they should pay taxes to Caesar. The Sadducees' question, as you'll see, revolves around the issue of resurrection and whether that's a thing or not. And then the scribes ask a question regarding the greatest commandment. But again, because Jesus has this authority, not only to cleanse the temple, but he has the authority to answer these questions that are brought to him. But the question remains for not only the audience, but for us today, is how is it that we respond to the authority of Jesus in our life? And so that's the reflection questions that I want you to think about today. The first question that I want you to think about and ponder and meditate on is, how do you normally respond when the ways of Jesus or the way of Jesus confronts your normal way of being? When you're encountered by the living Christ, be it through his Spirit or through the Word, how is it that you respond to the authority that you find there? Are we defensive? Are we dismissive? Are you open? Are you attentive? So I want you to think back and think through some scriptures and think about interactions that you've had with Jesus through the Spirit and ask yourself, how is it that I most often respond to his authority, to his leading? The second question that I want you to ask is, what does it look like to submit to the authority of Christ in your life today? That's kind of a big question, so I'd ask you to think maybe more specifically. Are there specific areas that come to mind today as you think about the authority of Jesus in your life? And not only as you think about that authority and what those areas are, but I would ask you to go a step further and ask yourself, what is Jesus' invitation as he speaks authoritatively to me in these specific areas of my life? Is it an invitation to forgive? Is it an invitation to submit? Is it an invitation to love? Is it an invitation to faith and to step out? And ask yourself, will you be like the disciples who respond favorably and submissively to Jesus' authority rather than the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and the scribes who perpetually challenge Jesus' authority? So take some time today, set it aside either this morning, this afternoon, or this evening, and spend time in that passage in Mark's gospel and ask those questions and reflect. And we'll see you guys tomorrow.